Ladies and gentlemen, the time has once again arrived to review a brand new My Hero Academia movie. I just got done watching My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission, got out of the theater just about an hour ago, gathered my thoughts, and today I'm going to share with you guys what I thought of the third My Hero Academia movie. Now, the first part of this video is going to be spoiler free, absolutely nothing about plot or specifics about characters is going to be revealed in this first part in the bottom left corner or bottom right corner, whichever one. You'll see no spoilers. When I switch to the spoiler section, for those of you who want to be spoiled, or for those of you who have already seen the movie like me and you want to hear me talk about specifics, it'll switch to spoilers in the bottom corner. So yeah, this is gonna be a very casual review. I'm no movie critic, you know. I am a My Hero Academia fan though, true and true. And I have a lot to talk about. This was a very interesting movie, and yeah, hope you guys enjoy. So, for the spoiler-free review, what did I think of this movie? Just general thoughts. So going into this movie, I really enjoyed the first two movies, right? I thought Two Heroes was perfectly fine. I gave it a 7 out of 10 in my review. Uh, the beginning and the end of that movie were the highlights, and the middle was kind of like meh. The second movie, I gave a 9. And outside of the horrible plot device at the end of the movie, I thought the rest was phenomenal. The plot device being the fact that, like, Deku shares One for All momentarily, and I guess spoilers if you haven't seen the second movie, but it's been out for a year plus now. So, and then, like, after it's all over, there's no repercussions because Bakugo gets amnesia. That part was just so stupid. But the rest of the movie was great. I thought 9 was awesome. Animation's great. I gave that movie a 9. Really loved it. So, what did I think of this movie? Going in, I was like, as long as they don't have any convoluted chicanery like they had in the second movie, I'll be totally happy. And I'm pleased to say that this movie delivered. Um, if I had to give it a grade before we dive into just my general thoughts, I would also give this one a 9 out of 10. There are some issues I will talk about briefly here and then more in detail in the spoiler section. But overall, a super enjoyable movie. Lots of fantastic animation. And I saw it in dub, by the way. I should clarify that now. I saw it in dub. It's just my preferred version. But I'd imagine the experience would be very much the same depending on what your preference is, if you see it sub or dub. And yeah, this movie just kind of had a little bit of everything. Rody as the new character, we've seen him in the trailers. He's sort of that Aladdin-looking scoundrel, like thief kind of thing. Um, he's truly a great character, and like he's similar to the kids in the second movie. How he's sort of our surrogate to where the new location is and the story and stuff. He's the main new character, right? He's great. I really loved his entire arc that we see in this movie. I thought it was all just great to see come to fruition. Deku, Bakugo, Todoroki are all great in this movie, and the villain. Again, without getting into spoilers, I was a little bit let down by the villain in this movie. It was definitely the weakest part of this movie, and that's the only reason I'm not giving it a 10. Not he's not bad per se. If I had to rank the movie villains, Wilhelm's still at the bottom for the first movie. He's the definition of generic. And then I think his name is Fleck Turn. Fleck Turn is his name in this movie, the blue guy, and he was fine. Like there wasn't anything bad about him per se. It's just they didn't really give him much screen time, and it kind of suffered for that. So that's like the only thing that's keeping this from being a 10 in my eyes. But the climactic fights at the end of the movie were fantastic. There is, in my opinion, one of the greatest new waifus that this series has ever introduced in this movie. I'll talk about that in the spoilers. Although you do see her in the trailers. Yeah, in general, I thought this movie was really enjoyable. I saw it with a friend who's not really that big into anime, but I got him to watch My Hero Academia, and he does enjoy My Hero Academia, so that was kind of a fun experience. But yeah, overall, this movie was very enjoyable, great animation, some great music too, and some really great fights, and some really surprising moments that I'll share in my spoiler section. So, Yeah, that's all I really want to say about that. Right, just from my spoiler free, I think you guys should go see it. If you're a My Hero Academia fan, you'll definitely enjoy it. Go have a great time. If you liked, if you thought the second movie was great, I think this one's right on par for different reasons. I give them both like a 9 out of 10. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so now we cut to the spoiler section. Now I'm just going to get into the nitty gritty. If you're watching this at this point, you don't care about being spoiled, or you've already seen the movie, and you want me to just dive in and talk about everything. Okay, where do I begin with this movie? First and foremost, I really liked how they sort of paced the movie. The way that they introduce the predicament that the world is in, and with Fleck Turn. So basically, since we're in the spoiler section, I'll just go ahead and say it. Fleck Turn. The reason I'm thinking about this now, and it's just like that's a really dumb pun, but his quirk is reflection. Anything that either he touches or impacts him just gets reflected. So he's essentially untouchable, and anything you try to attack him with, you just get hit back with. And not gonna lie, this kind of makes for a not. I'm sort of jumping ahead of myself. I'll dive into this more later. This makes for not a super engaging villain, and both in terms of his character and the fight at the end. I'll dive into the fight later, but throughout the movie, we don't really, outside of the fact that we get it that this guy, he feels that quirks are a disease. He's kind of like Overhaul in that sense, where it's just like it's a hindrance to humanity. It's going to lead to the downfall of humanity, and overall, it just felt kind of samey. It felt like we've seen this motivation before with Overhaul, and it didn't really do anything to differentiate him from any other villain. But then again, he wasn't bad. I think the voice acting and just his design and stuff really carries him. Because like that's all great, but they just don't do a lot with him in the story. He's just sort of the bad guy that is there to be defeated at the end. So he's the one pulling all the strings. He's the one putting these gas bombs around the world. That when these gas bombs go off, it's sort of like Trigger, where like it amplifies your quirk, but in this case, it like makes your quirk go berserk and presumably can kill you or severely hurt you. It's implied at the beginning that a lot of people died from his first attacks. This is a very I'll just say this. There's a lot of blood in this movie. Like a surprising amount of blood. Like there are moments where Deku is it's just gushing and dropping on the floor in like buckets of blood. And it's actually kind of surprising considering that this is a series known for its debate over like censorship and stuff. But no, there's a good amount of blood in this movie. We'll dive into the fights and stuff later, and I'll talk more about that. But yeah, in terms of the plot, it's just sort of Deku and Bakugo and Todoroki are still on Endeavor's team because it's during the internships, so they're kind of roped in with this, along with all the other students. Except, okay, I have a little bit of a rant here. Why are all the students involved again, except for there's like 5 that are like sidelined, and of course Mina is one of them. Why do they sideline Mina again? Throughout these 3 movies, she's had barely anything to do, and it's sort of getting annoying because they always do Uraka, Tokoyami, Kirishima. Like they always do the same ones that have moments to do stuff, and it's like, come on, like if you're gonna do these movies, bring some of these other characters in. Ida, Aoyama, Hagakure, Mina, and I think Sugar Rush. They get sidelined. They're just kind of at UA, just hanging out. And you see them for like 2 scenes where it just shows them reacting to the news and shit. That a little bit of a rant, I know, but like, come on, like bring these other characters. I know Ida's fine if you want to put him on the sideline. He already got a fantastic moment in the last movie, but like Mina again, like even Aoyama got a moment in the last movie that was really crazy, awesome. I don't know. I'm salty. Mina is the best girl in the show, and I'm mad that once again she gets sidelined. Anyway, so yeah, the plot's pretty generic. But I don't hold that against the film because it's just sort of there to set up this predicament for the heroes. They have to find this organization, the bombs and stuff, and just to capture Fleck Turn, right? Um, so Rody, like I said in my spoiler-free section, he's a very well-written character. He's definitely one of the highlights of this movie. Um, Also, his quirk reveal at the end was super sweet. I'll talk about that more toward the end, because he does have a quirk, and it's a really unique one. It's actually it caught me by surprise, honestly. So this movie is so quick and slow at the same time, and what I mean by that is you're very quick to have Deku interact with Rody. There's a whole altercation with like a jewelry robbery and him trying to get a job and stuff. And before you know it, they're both fugitives because what do you know it, the police are being controlled by Fleck Turn. And it's very much like, I don't want to compare this too much to Marvel, but there's a lot of scenes in this movie that remind me so much of recent Marvel movies. Fleck Turn and I think they're called Humorize or something, like their organization, the people who are out, they're basically, the whole philosophy is like quirkless people are the only pure ones left, and most of their organization is formed with quirkless people. They do have some people with quirks, but they're told like, "Oh, you have quirks and you're evil, but you can redeem your sins by like helping our organization." That's how essentially they bring these people in to help them. We'll talk about one of them specifically later because I think she's like the coolest designed, one of the coolest designed characters in the series. I think she's great. Definitely waifu, the waifu of the movies for me, of all three movies. Um, but what's it called? Okay, where was I? So yeah, the organization, they're a bunch of quirkless people for the most part, and Rody, his dad, like his backstory is that Rody's kind of a street rat because he's taking care of his younger brother and sister. They're kind of scrounging by. He's taking any job he can for money. And his dad like abandoned them, but not really. It's revealed later that he did it just to save the family. Basically, the Fleck Turns organization, they capture him and make him, because the dad's like a engineer, right? And they force him to build the bombs that they use eventually. And we learn that eventually he dies trying to help get this valuable information out to the heroes, and so he died a hero essentially, and then he did everything he did because they threatened to kill Rhodey and his children or his other kids if he didn't comply with them. So the whole Rhodey story was really good, I thought. The backstory was super solid, but Rhodey as a character himself really is just great. Him and Deku go on this sort of like hitchhiking journey. And it's really weird. You get like this like montage of them like roughing it across the country because they're trying to like get to this, they're trying to get out of the city where he's being hunted, right? And they're just hitchhiking in this beat up car and they're like learning about each other and they're becoming friends. And it's just like really, it took me off guard because like a song plays and it's like this buddy adventure. It doesn't last too long. It's like 5-10 minutes, but like it's actually really enjoyable. Um, and then we get to really sort of the beginning fights of the movie. Like there was some like fights earlier on in the movie. It was kind of like action and stuff when they raid the headquarters at the beginning looking for Fleck Turn. Um, and if you can hear that plane flying overhead, I apologize. Um, anyway, so they uh they're on this journey, right? And basically they're trying to first evade the cops, and then they find that the stuff that Rhodey had in the briefcase is actually valuable information that Fleck turns after. And then by the time they reach their destination, him and Deku are really close. They understand each other. There's no more animosity between them because at first there was. Um, and then the fighting begins. And then this is like, so the fight. So one thing I want to mention before we get to the fights at the end of their hitchhiking thing, before their hitchhiking thing, we're introduced to this one girl who I think is named Barros. By the way, this they gave this to you at the end of the movie, or they gave us to. I think it's supposed to be before the movie, but they forgot. They gave us to it at the end of the movie. And this is actually super helpful because it actually has all the names of the various characters in this and a lot of like artwork and stuff. I'm not going to show you guys like every page, but the girl who I think is just amazing. Her name is Barros, and she's essentially like Green Arrow, like Archer girl, and her quirk and design and everything is just so amazing. So basically, she like she stole my heart. She is so cool. She basically can like do this like just with her fingers, almost like a Spider-Man thing, and it creates a bow, like a bow, like without no, it doesn't create arrows. It just creates a bow that she can like shoot any projectile with, and any projectile she shoots, she like can control, and she has like all these arrows and stuff. And I just think like her design is amazing, and the quirk itself is so cool because it pairs with the other villains that she's working with, like this other guy. He makes these metal balls and they expand into giant boulder sized metal balls. And he's like, here, use this, and he like gives her these marble sized metal balls, and she shoots them and controls them, and then they like expand. Like it's the fights are so well choreographed in this movie. I have one issue with the fights. I'll get to the end when I talk about the penultimate, like the final fight, right? By the way, I like that fight a lot. I just have like one kind of issue with it. I'll get to, but so yeah, she's great. And then, but at the end of Rody and Deku's road trip, they reunite with Deku or with Bakugo and Todoroki. And then there's this quite possibly the coolest fight sequence of the movie. It's not necessarily the most grand in terms of like body for body punches and like what thrown, but the animation, it's so crazy. It's basically Bakugo, Deku, and Todoroki and Rody to an extent versus the metal ball guy and the bow and arrow girl, Barros, who's in this helicopter chasing them. And I can't describe to you guys just how magnificently fluid this fight is. There's better fights toward the end of the movie, but this one is really unique in the way that it's there's no cuts. It's like you pan from one character to an angle, and then the fluidity of which it flows to another character and they're fighting is just, I've never really seen that. I mean, they've kind of done that before, but when you guys watch the movie, stay tuned for that when the bow and arrow girl and this metal ball guy show up to fight Deku, Todoroki, and Bakugo. It is, I'd say it's probably about halfway through the movie, if not just past halfway. Truly spectacular. You guys are gonna really enjoy it. So anyway, they get away there, like, and then more stuff happens. Blah 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 blah. They find the information on the data disk that was in the briefcase. They find out where the headquarters are, and before they can go to the headquarters, that's when they find out that the dad basically sacrificed himself to help get this information out. And one of the things that he gave his life to smuggle out was the deactivation card for the bombs. Because the villain, Fleck Turn, he basically has like a 2 hour time limit. Of course, there's a 2 hour time limit. Why not just activate the bombs right there, you know? But anyway, so he tells the world heroes. By the way, All Might's kind of chilling at HQ at the World Heroes HQ. All Might's in the movie. He doesn't really do a whole lot. He has a few lines here and there, but he's just sort of there to be like, "You got this, guys. You got this." Like, you know how All Might is these days. So all the different various teams of the world. You have like the America team. You have like Japan team, the Egypt team. Which, by the way, the Egypt team, kind of disappointed we didn't get to see more of the Egyptian guy. I thought they would show off what exactly his quirk is. They kind of like just make fun of the fact that he's flat and the way he runs is ridiculous because he's like Game and Watch and Smash Brothers. The way he moves, it's just like, oh, I'm flat. Like that's my gimmick. I'm funny. But we kind of already have that with Edge Shot. He can like flatten himself into origami. So I don't know. I hope that's not this guy's only thing. They don't really show him using his quirk. Kind of disappointed in that. I was kind of hoping we'd get more from him. But he's funny in the brief moment we see him. But basically, they all disperse to take out the bombs. Deku, Bakugo, Todoroki, and Rody. Rody flies them because he's got like a natural gift for flying, I guess. They don't really elaborate on this. It's kind of a weird detail. But they fly him to the headquarters. And then here we enter like the final fight of... the final fights, I should say. There's multiple fights. And I'll talk about... There's three main fights. I'm going to talk about each of them individually. First, they storm the place, which is a really cool scene because they have a lot of guards out front with like guns and various quirks. And they basically say, hey, Bakugo, go loose. Like, take these guys out. Bakugo cleans them up. Really, really cool sequence. And then Deku and Todoroki go into the base. And Here's where the fighting begins. I'll talk about the three fights individually. I'll save Deku's for last, just because it's Deku, and that one kind of has the most things I want to talk about. Let's start with Bakugo's fight. Bakugo's fight is kind of it's so effing insane. Like, if you don't keep your eye focused on where Bakugo and the villains he's fighting is, you're gonna lose track. There's so fast movement in this specifically this fight. So basically, Bakugo, he takes out all the little grunt minions and he's like, that was easy. And then like these Siamese twin like creepy snake kids appear, and they just have these large snake grins, and they're like they both have the same quirk, which was actually really cool. I like how they're twins and they have the same quirk. I thought, like, genius. Like, why hasn't that been done before? But their quirk is essentially, it's like whips, but they have blades on them, and they can like make them come out of their arms and stuff. And this is actually a super tough matchup for Bakugo, because they use the metal blades to block his explosions. And when I said there was a lot of blood in this movie earlier, I meant it. This fight and Deku's fight just have so much blood. Todoroki's not really at all. Todoroki actually doesn't get hurt that bad. We'll talk about his in a little bit. But Bakugo, he gets like impaled. Like, there's a scene like he just straight up gets impaled. He gets slashed repeatedly throughout his whole body. He's just got cuts. He's just dripping blood. And by the end of the fight, well, don't worry, I'll talk about the fight itself. He's even got like blood in his eye. Like his eye is red. He gets effed up. Like, he barely wins this fight. These two like bladed twins are insane. They not only are they strong by themselves, but halfway through the fight they inject themselves with trigger. And they can match Bakugo in the air. They like fling themselves around with their rope. They grab onto ledges and they swing around. They block his explosions with the metal blades. They cut him up. And Bakugo, for a majority of this fight, is just getting effed up. He barely wins this fight. And he only wins this fight because Bakugo just has sheer determination to not lose, which is kind of great. Essentially, like, they're effing him up, and then Bakugo just gets super pissed, and then like reveals that during the whole fight he planted little bombs, his little grenade bombs, throughout this spire that they're attacking around, and he blows them up, and the whole thing collapses on him. And like, at this point, he's really effed up. Like, he's cut everywhere, and he's like, "Yeah, I beat you, you bastards," or whatever he says, you know. And then here's where they inject themselves with the trigger, because they obviously feel they need the boost. And basically what it does to them is, in addition to their arm whips chains that they have, it makes two more come out of their like back. So they each like double their essential power. And here's where the fight just gets like, again, if you don't focus on where Bakugo is, it's just, they have him flying around, dude. Like, they exaggerate. I don't know if they exaggerate the speed, but like the way they draw it and animate it, it's great animated. I'm not saying that it's fantastic, but again, you just have to focus on where Bakugo is, because these two come at him fast. They're relentless. They beat the shit out of him even more, and you think like, holy shit, Bakugo is like really struggling in this fight. And Bakugo essentially turns the tide, because they impale him, right? And they like wrap around him, and he uses that to his advantage. Since they're locked onto him, he like grabs the arms and then whips them to the side of the mountain and slams them in. And then here's where he takes advantage of it the moment he's been presented. His gauntlets, we've never seen this before, and this is actually really cool. We know he can like pull the trigger and like fire out the big blast, which he does in this fight. What we've never seen before is he actually launches them off his wrists like rockets. Like they fire like rockets right at the twins on the wall. They slice the gauntlets in half, but it doesn't matter because they just blow up in a huge explosion. But we're not done there. Bakugo then does a really stylish like thing where he kind of did this in the sports festival, where he makes the spire of explosions, and he does a howitzer impact type attack and blows them up. And that's the end of that fight. And you see Bakugo like It's funny. You see Bakugo and it like starts to pan up, and he's holding the fist up, right? And you think, oh, is he doing the All Might slash Endeavor fist raise thing? No, no, no. It cuts up, and then you see him. He's just holding his thumb down, and it's such a typical Bakugo fashion. It was a really funny fake out, and I thought that was great. I laughed to myself. And then he collapses because again he gets really effed up in this fight, and he kind of like he wins, like he beats them, but in my opinion, like they did so much more to him than he did to them. It was a really good fight, and Bakugo won in the end. But yeah, that was crazy. That's one of the three fights. I'll talk about Todoroki's now. Todoroki's was definitely the weakest of the three for sure. Todoroki fights this guy called like the Leviathan or something. Let me just double check. So Todoroki's fight, like the thing about Todoroki is it's not like Bakugo or Deku where he can get in close and do like a bunch of like physical moves. A lot of it comes down to like ranged. Let's see if I can find the guy. Ranged. Wait, did I find him? Nope. Nope, not that guy. By the way, the metal guy's name is Sidero, the guy who fires the metal balls. Let's see if I can find the. Oh, they don't have the guy in there. I think he's called the Leviathan. Oh wait, there's more actually. Sorry, I know I'm like off track here. Yes, it is Leviathan. Here's Leviathan. It's this. Oh, I can show you guys the twins too. I think those are the twins right there actually. See those like chain whips on the side. Anyway, that's Leviathan, the big guy. That's who Todoroki fights. And then these are the twins. Yeah, these are the twins. Okay, so it's kind of showing their triggered form here. I wonder if they have the regular one, but in the bottom, you can kind of see that's their form and the trigger form. And above, they're kind of their more normal one, but that's not really indicative of their normal form. They're a little crazier looking still in their normal form. And Todoroki's fight wasn't really that great. I mean, it was fine. It was visually pleasing. He does a really cool flash fire fist explosion move to win the fight, but like a lot of it again is just sort of Todoroki just getting pummeled for a while, and then like they come out of this waterfall because they're in a river, and then like he freezes him, and then and then the Leviathan guy, like he can control water and fire. I guess it's his like thing, plus just being buff, and he basically eats like Todoroki in this like fire form mouth thing, and then Todoroki's like, "Do you think this is hot? I'll show you hot," and basically like punches him with like a fire ice attack. And you know, like I feel like Todoroki is so limited in how many cool things you can do with him. His fight was definitely it's so funny. His fight is like the weakest here, but in the last movie, I thought it was like one of the best ones. I loved his fight against what's his name in that one? The guy they fight, the Chimera? Yeah, Chimera. I like how he fought a Leviathan and a Chimera. I just realized this. But yeah, his fight, and then they both free fall out of the sky like unconscious. They both just kind of like Bakugo's fight where everyone just ends up unconscious. And then we cut to Deku's fight, and I talked about this earlier with. So basically, Deku tries to attack Leviathan because Leviathan comes out and he says a few words. He's like, "You dare go into the sacred place with your tainted quirk and all that, like you're disgusting." And then like Deku attacks him, and he finds out like, oh shit, like my attack's getting reflected back, and he tries like ranged moves also get reflected back. And then like the guy goes into his whole story how like his own parents couldn't hug him or hold him because like just the mere embrace of holding him, like that would get reflected, and like you get like knocked out of their hands. He was saying how people like he would loved a woman and like couldn't be with her. His own colleagues didn't want to talk to him, and it's like, okay, yeah, your life's like it sucks that you have this thing, but like it doesn't really make you sympathize with him. Like it makes you be like, oh, well, that sucks. Like you have this like bad backstory because your quirk, because you can't turn off his quirk, right? It's like always active, and I'm just like, that's really your motivation. That's why you founded this cult, and like. And he was saying how like he couldn't even like end his own life because you do that and it just reflects the bullet, or however, I don't know how he attempted to do it, but he implied that. Um, and yeah, just in general, like they didn't make me personally feel for the villain. Fleck Turn, I thought he was definitely the weakest part of this movie. And if he was as good as Nine, like as interesting and just like fun to watch as Nine, this movie could potentially be a 10, or at least like a 9.5. But as it stands, it's like a 9. So anyway, Deku's fighting him, and Rody shows up, and he's like, he he first like fakes out that, like, okay, so back during their little trip together across the country, Deku is like, "Do you have a quirk, Rody?" And he's like, "It's a ridiculous quirk. Like, promise not to laugh if I tell you." And then like, as he's about to tell him, you cut away from that scene. It doesn't reveal what his quirk is. Um, and this part was really cool, I thought, because the whole time you're thinking, "Oh shit, he's gonna like use his quirk." Um, and then like, so Deku at this point, Deku is just beat to shit. He can't do anything. Like he's punching this guy, and he's just like, Deku's bleeding profusely. Like there's blood everywhere. Um, and Rhodey comes in. He's got the key to deactivate the bombs, and he's like, the guards outside told me that if I just hand this over, they'll save my brother and sister, because the brother and sister were in one of the bomb areas, and they'll like let us go or whatever. So I got to do this. And then like Deku's like, "No, don't." And then like you see Rhodey going up to Fleck Turn to give him the chip, and then it alludes back to the moment where like he's like, "My quirk's silly, promise not to laugh." And then it still doesn't reveal what it is. But all you see is the little bird that has been throughout the whole story with him. He's just like this funny, like, bird, like very emotional. The bird in his backpack is just like, just giving him like signs, being like, "Let's go, like come on, like it's all good." Um, and then you see him flip the thing up, like, and the guy's like, "Wait, what?" And then basically Deku understands this as a signal to continue his attack on Fleck Turn. So he attacks him despite the fact it's getting recoiled. And then you see Rhodey take the chip, and he's going to run to the computer to go disable it. Um, and then Fleck Turn calls in a laser to like shoot Rhodey. And then like Rhodey gets shot right through the gut with a laser, and you're like, "Oh shit." And then like, so he's hurt now, he's bleeding. And then Deku, like, you know how My Hero goes. They have that moment where it's like, "Oh, my friends are my power," and as it cuts to all the friends who are fighting to defuse the bombs everywhere, and he's saying like, this part gets a little bit corny, not gonna lie. And he's like, "Heroes never give up. We always do what we can to protect Smiles," and all that. So it gets a little corny here. But then like he continues to attack Fleck Turn despite him getting reflected attacks on, and then he's now realizing that either Fleck Turn is reaching a limit to how much he can reflect, or Deku is just starting to overpower him. It's not really clear, but basically he's starting to kind of get pushed back from Deku's attacks. Deku sees this and just goes on the assault. Keeps up the attack to give Brody time. And then Brody, he's like limping. He's doing the Mirio thing where he's like on the wall and he's like getting dragged, and it's just blood splurted on the wall as he's trying to make his way to the computer. And here's where the quirk is revealed. So I don't know if I can't remember if they reveal his last name earlier in the story, but it's so clever when I'm looking in this book and you see the name of let's see if I can find him. So Rhodey's last name is Soul. Rody Soul. I'm pretty sure they do reveal what his last name is earlier in the story. You just don't really know. So essentially his quirk is, and this is such a unique like quirk. I've never seen a quirk like this. It's not especially powerful. It's just really unique. So the little bird that is with him is essentially the embodiment of his soul. Like, he can lie to your face. Like Rhodey, he's talking to you. He's kind of that Aladdin type where he's like, "Oh no, I'm fine. Don't worry about me." Like he might say one thing, but he's masking what he's truly feeling. The bird shows what his true feelings are. Throughout the whole movie, you see the bird cry, you see the bird like try to like alert Deku for help despite Rody not wanting help. You see the bird like excitable, and it's at this point it's revealed that the bird is actually a reflection of his true emotions. It's essentially his soul like personified as this bird. Like that's his quirk. It's so fascinating. I um and it's at this point it's revealed that like that's this whole time that the little bird was everything that he was truly feeling. So every time he was like kind of giving Deku shit for being a hero and stuff like that. Like not he was never mean, but the bird was always like truly the one that was like it's just fascinating to me. If you watch the movie, you'll know what I mean. Um, so he makes his way to the device, and here's a bit of a dumb cop out thing. Not a cop out, but like a so he collapses. He falls short of the device, and the little bird collapses too. And you see the bird dissipate, like just like disappear, and you're like, shit, is Rody like dead? Is that what just happened? And then like so Deku sees this on the security cam. They both him and Fleck Turn look and like, oh look, he failed. And then like at this point, okay, here's where the fight kicks into like before the fight was kind of boring because it's just Fleck Turn like just blocking everything Deku's doing. And then here's the part you all expect where Deku goes plus ultra. Literally, he says like going plus ultra and like it gets to anime ridiculousness. And so Deku he essentially goes into that infinite 100% mode that we saw with Eri. And okay, as ridiculous as this part got, I can't help but love it because I don't know if this is what they were going for, okay? This is more how I interpreted it. So the clear thing is Deku in this fight mimics All Might's United States of Smash, but in he says United States of Worlds Smash, like it's kind of a dumb name, United States of World Smash, but he does that and there's like a huge attack and all that. But before that, you hear All Might like the voice of All Might like uh it's calling back to All Might versus the Nomu, and that got my goosebumps like going because basically uh a true hero like justice will always be served, like whatever quote he uses in the dub, I forgot, I don't want to butcher it, but he says that. And you see Deku just basically shift into like ultra instinct mode. And you know how All Might, but how he defeated the Nomu is he did like the rapid punches in succession, just like extremely fast punches to overwhelm his opponent. Deku does that here, and it just it hit me in the feels because that moment from season 1 was the moment where I knew that this series was fucking awesome. And it really hit me. Like I understand this is gonna hit everyone differently, but that one specific moment, that one specific move that Deku does, I don't know if it, other than the fact that he used the voice line, like they re-recorded the voice line, by the way. It wasn't just a direct draw from episode 12 of season 1. They had Christopher Sabat reread the line, but in like a more somber tone. A true hero always finds a way for justice to be served. Like that's the line. I think that was the perfect line. And then that's when Deku just does the rapid punches, and then like overwhelms his barrier, and then he finishes it off with like one super punch that he kind of does like against the Nomu. Again, like I'm biased, maybe this moment hit me more, but like to me that was the pinnacle of the fight with Fleck Turn. And if this fight didn't have that moment, or just like the I guess like to me that moment carried this fight because the rest of the fight was honestly kind of boring. Like they had moments where it was cool, but um that one moment really made the fight really worthwhile to me. And like yeah, so he defeats Fleck Turn. And then here's the part that was kind of like ridiculous because as I mentioned, the bird vanished, right? And you think, oh shit, Rhodey's dead. And then like Deku, you see Deku sprinting to take care of the bomb, and then like he doesn't get there in time. Like, and all the people around the world are like, "Oh shit, we're out of time." But then the bombs don't go off, and like, wait, what? The bombs didn't go off. What happened? And Deku reaches the room, and Rody, while he crawled a little bit closer to the computer, the bird is the one that like put the key in, and the bird is like on top of the key, like just breathing heavy, and it's like, tell me, did you die and then come back? Like, why did you vanish? Like, it didn't really explain this. Um, like the bird vanished before, and you think Rhodey's dead. He stops moving, like he collapses, and then like you come back, and not only did Rhodey somehow just like wake up and crawl further, and then the bird puts the key in, but and then you think at this point, oh shit, surely Rhodey's gonna die now. He probably just used a little ounce of strength he had left to do this. No, Deku, who's profusely bleeding himself, goes over to Rhodey and holds him. And then like you think, oh shit, this is the moment where like Rhodey's gonna like pass away, and like it's gonna be really sad. But he died like being a hero, and like no, all of a sudden you hear some like happy music start to play, like dun 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 dun. You know, they played this song before. It's like kind of it's like the song they used at the end of the second movie, I think. But and then they just start like talking and like laughing, and it's just like, wait, you're laughing. Rhodey's like near death. How the hell is he still alive? Like this part was just a little bit ridiculous to me. Like I'm not mad he lived by any means, but like you can't fake out a death. Like his little spirit soul bird literally evaporates, but and then then you have him wake back up, get the key in, and then not only does he still have the strength left to live, but he's like laughing and stuff suddenly now. Like he didn't get better. He still has this gaping hole from when the laser shot him. He's bleeding. But, you know, then it cuts to them all being safe, and it ends with like them leaving the place, and at the airport, him and Rhodey hug, and it's really cute. Again, I like Rhodey a lot as a character. And of course, like everything just ends in a way where it won't impact the main series, as these always do. And then like the credits, during when the credits play, you see like snapshots of Rhodey getting a job for the guy he used to work for, but now it's like an honest job. He's serving tables, and he's hanging out with his family, and he's like making a living for himself, and you see like, and then like to add insult to injury, it ends with the students who went on this mission. They come back to see like the 5 students who are still at UA, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're happy to see you. Thanks for coming back." Ida like runs and does Ida things and hugs them, and you see like just a few more frames of Mina celebrating, and it's like, great, like thanks for putting her. She's in like, I forgot to mention this. There's actually, when the movie opens, like after the first like 5 minutes, there's a super cool stylized scene where it shows various students of Class 1A, and it's so freaking cool. I don't know why I didn't talk about this, but yeah, it's just awesome. And yeah, like but anyway, Mina's in it for like 3 scenes, and I don't think she has any dialogue. And they're just like, and you might think, oh, this is just Mighty being mad his best girl isn't in it. Literally, she's like the only one, because if you think about it, like because Ida had his moments in the last movie, like, or Mina's never had one. She had like a quick scene against the hair girl, but like, of all people in the class, I think Hagakure and Mina are like the only ones who've barely done anything, and it's just so ridiculous. Even Jiro got to do shit in this movie, and she didn't even do much. But like, hot damn, dude, that's one minor gripe. But yeah, World Heroes Mission. Very enjoyable movie. I highly recommend if you're a My Hero Academia fan. It's definitely better than the first movie. I'd say it's about on par with the second movie, both in terms of animation. The animation of this one, you could argue, goes harder through various scenes, and it's definitely enjoyable. It's just so it's so crazy sometimes. You gotta the Bakugo fight in particular. Make sure you keep your eyes like ready, because that shit's nuts. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say on that. Kind of left it all on the table. I talked about all my thoughts on like the spoiler, like everything in the movie. Um, yeah, like that's all I gotta say. I highly recommend it. Outside of like some minor complaints with like the ending, how it's kind of like, how is Rody still alive, man? Like that, you copped out his death, and then like not only did he live, but to put the key in, but then he's just laughing and having a good time. Like, and then the villain being kind of weak. The rest of the film was spectacular. I really enjoyed it, and again, I love the Arrow Girl that they introduced in this. I just like. It sucks we'll never see Barros again. She is so cool. She has like some of the coolest scenes. She is just awesome. Definitely waifu material. Um, but yeah, that's all I want to say. Hope you guys found this review entertaining. And yeah, I kind of left it all on the table. So hope let me know what you guys thought. If you saw the movie already, leave your thoughts down below. If you're going to see it, did you watch the spoilers because you don't care or whatever? So I just want to know. So leave your thoughts down below. And until next time, this has been a Mighty Gazelle. Hoping you all have a mighty day. See you guys.